Silence often hides the deepest battles, and in the world of celebrity families, where every step is watched, every mistake is magnified, and every emotion becomes a headline, silence can feel impossible. Today's story takes us inside the emotional journey of T.I.'s daughter, Deyjah Harris, a young woman who grew up in front of millions while secretly carrying a burden that almost no one understood, a burden she later revealed had followed her since she was just 11 years old. This is a story about pressure, exposure, trauma, and the long, painful fight for mental peace. Welcome back to the channel. In today's documentary, we dive deep into the story behind Deyjah Harris's emotional confession, her struggle with depression, anxiety, bullying, and the intense spotlight that surrounded her family. A story that many thought they knew, but few truly understood. Because long before the world heard her speak, long before her video reached the public, Deyjah had been living a private war that quietly shaped her childhood, her identity, and her mental health. And her journey began long before the controversy that made her name explode across social media. For years, people saw Deyjah as the calm, quiet daughter on T.I. and Tiny Family Hustle. She was polite, well-spoken, and always carried herself with a sense of grace. But behind that calm exterior, she was fighting demons no one could see. In her latest YouTube video, she finally opened up, revealing that she had been struggling with depression and anxiety for 7 long years, starting at the age of only 11. And what made her suffering worse was that she was growing up in public, where every move she made was judged, interpreted, and turned into content for people who didn't know her at all. At 11 years old, most children struggle with schoolwork, friendships, or growing pains. But Deyjah had to deal with something else entirely: the weight of being a celebrity's daughter. From classrooms to online platforms, she became a target. She admitted that she faced bullying, criticism, and comments that slowly chipped away at her self-confidence. What made it harder was that she didn't feel like she had the space to simply be a child. Because in the public eye, mistakes become scandals, insecurities become topics of debate, and pain becomes entertainment. She recalls moments when she felt isolated, misunderstood, and overwhelmed. Moments where her anxiety made her feel trapped in her own body. Moments where the pressure felt too heavy to carry. And for years, she didn't speak about it publicly. She simply endured, hoping that time would heal what she couldn't explain. But time didn't heal everything. And when one moment of controversy exploded into headlines around the world, her private battles grew even heavier. In 2019, the internet erupted when T.I. revealed, during a podcast appearance, that he accompanied Deyjah to her gynecologist visits to ensure that her hymen was still intact. The comments sparked outrage across the country. Fans, critics, doctors, celebrities, everyone had something to say. Overnight, Deyjah's name was dragged into a global conversation she never asked for. Strangers debated her body. Shows analyzed her privacy. Social media flooded with accusations, opinions, jokes, and commentary. And while the world reacted loudly, no one realized the emotional blow it struck on Deyjah herself. For a young woman already battling mental health issues, already facing criticism and bullying, the sudden explosion of attention became a trigger that intensified her depression and anxiety. She described feeling violated, embarrassed, and overwhelmed. It wasn't just the comment. It was the fact that millions of people were suddenly discussing the most intimate part of her life without her consent. The controversy changed how she saw the world. It changed how she saw relationships. And it changed something inside her that she didn't immediately have the words to explain. She needed time, not to defend, not to clarify, not to entertain, but to simply breathe. And in her YouTube video, she explained exactly what that period felt like. She said her mental health did not start with that moment, but the moment pushed it into places she never expected. She was already struggling with depression and anxiety. The public exposure amplified everything. Comments from strangers cut deep. Rumors felt suffocating. And the pressure of being watched made her feel like she was losing control of her own story. But instead of hiding forever, Deyjah made a decision many didn't expect. She chose to speak. In her video, she opened up fully for the first time, explaining how she wanted people to understand that mental health struggles don't disappear just because someone appears strong on camera. She wanted people to know that she had spent years fighting internal battles that no one ever saw. She admitted that there were days where she didn't feel like herself, days where anxiety made it difficult to breathe, days where depression made it hard to get out of bed, and days where comments online tore at her confidence and left her feeling numb. But she didn't speak out for sympathy. She spoke to help others. She spoke because she knew that millions of young people also battle depression and anxiety silently. She wanted to create a space where healing feels possible. She wanted people to know that there is nothing wrong with being flawed, struggling, or needing time. She wanted people to treat themselves with the same gentleness they offer to others. Mental health doesn't discriminate, she said. You're never the exception to recovery. Treat yourself warmly. Those words became the heart of her message, a reminder that even in a world full of judgment, healing still matters. As Deyjah shared her journey, the conversation shifted. People who once criticized began to listen. Fans appreciated her honesty. Young viewers saw themselves in her story. And the world realized that behind the headlines, behind the controversy, behind the public persona, she was simply a young woman trying to heal. Meanwhile, a new layer of the story began unfolding on the family's reality show, T.I. and Tiny, Friends and Family Hustle. In a recently released trailer, viewers got a glimpse of Deyjah addressing the gynecologist controversy for the first time on camera. It was a moment fans had been waiting for, not because they wanted drama, but because they wanted to understand how she truly felt. Tiny, T.I.'s wife, explained in the trailer that her husband has a way of exaggerating things, often in ways that can be easily misunderstood. She suggested that the story people heard wasn't exactly the story that happened. But even with that explanation, viewers knew that the emotional impact on Deyjah was real. And as the season begins, fans will finally see the conversations that took place behind closed doors, the healing process the family went through, and the internal dynamics that shaped the entire incident. For the first time, the world will get to see the emotional truth behind the headlines. How did Deyjah respond? How did T.I. handle the backlash? How did the family support her? And what changes did the controversy force them to make? Fans are preparing for a season filled with vulnerability, honesty, and answers. Answers that many believe will finally put an end to years of speculation. And at the center of all of this stands Deyjah Harris, no longer the silent daughter in the background, but a young woman reclaiming her voice, telling her story on her own terms, and reminding the world that mental health is not weakness, shame, or failure. It is human. Her journey is far from over. Healing is slow, recovery takes time, and the scars of public exposure do not fade overnight. But Deyjah's story is now hers to tell. Not the internet's, not the media's, not the critics, and not the rumor mills. She is stepping into adulthood with honesty, vulnerability, and courage. And her message is one the world needs. You are allowed to struggle. You are allowed to heal. You are allowed to grow. And you are allowed to be human, without apology. So, what happens next for Deyjah Harris? That's a story still being written. But for now, she has done something powerful, something brave, something that deserves respect. She spoke, she shared, she chose healing over silence, and she reminded all of us that the battles we cannot see are often the ones that hurt the most. Tell us, what do you think about Deyjah's story? Do you believe she handled the situation with strength? How do you feel about the way the controversy played out? And what should the world learn from her experience? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.